All right. Well, we're going to try this again. For those of you, welcome to No Gatekeeping, the Founders Series. I am Carlyn Bushman, sales strategist, business coach, and founder of Pop Academy. This series is all about real stories and honest strategy from women building bold businesses. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about how so many of us are managing way too much. Emails, to-dos, family life, hobbies, and wondering if we're doing any of it well. That's why I'm thrilled about today's guest. Today's guest is Megan Sumrell. She is a time management expert and system strategist who built her own bottom-up planning method specifically for women juggling it all. She helps women ditch overwhelm and finally feel in control of their time again. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much. It's thrilled to be here.
Well, it is thrilled to have you here. And I know we had a little bit of conversation before. And as I described, we really love to get into some of the weeds and some of the real life stuff. And can we just go right into inbox chaos? Can we just talk about inbox chaos?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like?
I don't have any emails. Yeah, it's funny. I have to remind myself that it can really overwhelm and take over people's lives if they don't have a strategy in place, because I have one. I've been using it for years, so it's not what it is for so many, but it would be without putting some really pragmatic stuff in place. And I think it's one of the biggest distractions, sources of anxiety, and just general low-grade overwhelm that is just always like right under the surface for so many women, especially business owners.
I just heard a news story this morning, matter of fact, about 2.5 hours a day is spent on email. Let's just start with that.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. And the anxiety that comes with that, right? I mean, we already have enough pressures in our business, but even like a tool that should be so helpful to us and has changed so many things over the last several decades has become something that is actually a cause of anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen real examples of like worst case scenario, like you have a system, that's awesome, but what about the rest of us?
Yeah. And the thing is, I say I have a system. I'm not ever going to say my system is the right system for everybody. There are a lot of great ways to stay on top of email. But I believe everybody needs to find a way that puts them in control of their email instead of feeling like they are now, like their email is running their lives. And there are a lot of right ways to do it, and a lot is going to depend on how your brain works when it comes to organization. But the number one thing, regardless of how you choose to organize and all of that, is that the very first step you need to do with email is to have every notification off. It cannot be interrupting you, not even visual, right? No push notifications, no visual notifications, no audible notifications. And then actually creating appointments with yourself on your calendar for set times that is set aside where you are sitting down and going into your inbox. And then when the time is done, you are leaving your inbox and you're not looking at your email again until the next designated time. And depending upon the type of business you have, depending upon your team, et cetera, that's going to help dictate a little bit of how many times a day are you going in there. But for most women, the first time they do it, like, I can't, but I've got to, but what if, I'll say, okay, we'll just start at the top of the hour. We'll start it at the top of every hour. You get 10 minutes in your email and then leave. And then usually after a couple of days, they're like, I don't need to be in there every hour. So they're like, okay, I'm going to do it every 2 hours. And most people find that they can get down to checking it 2 or 1 times a day.
That's amazing. And I love how simple you just made that for us, because you're right. It's almost like, what am I missing? What am I missing? But I mean, okay, so we do that, but what is a client? You have to tell me, or at least share some of this. You've done this for years now. What's the biggest number of emails you've ever seen in an inbox or something of that nature where you've had to say, whoa, we've got to find a really good way to catch up? Because I feel like that, even when I'm talking to others and they share their screen and I can see their Google tab or something or Gmail or whatever it is. And I see where they've got a large number
with the number in it. And
yes.
I'm like, so I've seen someone just under 100,000 unread. Yeah.
How do you start? Like, how do you start that? It's nice to know if you've got a system for 10 minutes on top of the hour. I love that.
Yeah.
But how do you get that all started?
So the best, first of all, I believe everybody needs to have more than one email address, because if you have just one email address that every type of communication is coming to, of course you feel like you need to check it, especially if your work is embedded in there. But then of course, what's going to happen when you're trying to work, well, in between it is the 27 emails you got from Land's End that day, because God help you, you bought a bathing suit from them once 15 years ago, right? And so all of that noise is cluttered together. So at the bare minimum, a business owner should have at least 3 emails. So one email address is for business and business only, right? So, like mine, Megan@megansumrell.com. So that is like a business email address. I'm not using that email address to buy things. I'm not giving it out to my family. I'm not giving it to my daughter's school or her activities. So you need to have a business email. The second email you should have is your personal one for personal communications. So I have a separate email address that my family uses, that close friends. That is what I do give to my daughter's school. The things that I'm like, yes, I want to be on top of this, because if things are coming into me, I've decided it's important. And then your third email, everyone should have a completely separate email address that they do online shopping with. And never, ever, ever use your personal or your work for that, because that's going to help you as you're starting to work towards, okay, I'm going to check my email less, right? If I'm in work time, work mode, I'm going to pop into that work email address. I'm not going to look at the shopping one. I could let that sit for 5 days if I wanted to, right? And not stress out about it. So that would be step number 1, is make sure as a business owner, you've got at least 3 email addresses. I actually have 7.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But of that, I'm only looking at like 2 every day.
Okay.
So, we've got some interesting strategies there. The second biggest mistake people make is they think, I have to get the 15,000 unread emails handled before I can get a system in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I tell people is, okay, once you're ready to get onto a new system, like you're going to get your 3 emails and you're going to start only checking it X times a day, draw a line in the sand and say, today moving forward is when I'm doing that. And I don't have to clean up the old mess before doing that. So I will have people take their inbox and just archive it into a folder, like have it all sitting in a folder. And then as things are happening where now you're like, oh, I do need to go search my old emails to find that, you're pulling the ones into your new system on an as-need basis. And what will usually happen then is at the end of that year, whatever was left there, chances are you never needed it. And you can just like archive that off somewhere or delete it. If you're not comfortable, archive it out. But everyone thinks they need to clean up all of this before they start a new system. And you do not have to do that.
Well, that's giving us a lot of grace, because I feel that way. I feel like I'm the type of person where everything needs a home. So I just need to like sort it all out. I call it an email cleanse, a closet cleanse. I have all kinds of these different things that I try to do throughout the year, right? And to organize my life and my space, because it stresses me out if I see I've got so many unread or unaddressed emails, and then I start to go through them. And I know Gmail, you and I talked about this just briefly, and since we're on the email topic, I want to ask you your thoughts on this. And I just heard about it this morning. So I know this is like brand new, and it's a Gmail option. I don't know why it's taking them so long to come out with something like this, like their promotions tab, right? And it's called Subscription Manager, and it shows you the emails you're subscribed to, ranked in order by who sends you the most.
Oh, that is interesting. So Land's End will be at the top of my list.
Well, they used Allbirds, and they used Allbirds as an example in this news release or whatever. But it's funny you brought up Land's End, because what they said is, oh, how funny! I bought shoes. In their case, they were using Allbirds. I bought shoes, in 2017, and I'm still getting like a jillion emails from them, right? And we know the brands. Land's End, like you said, I bought a swimsuit
right.
like when 15 years ago or 10 or whatever. Yeah. So, your thoughts?
So, okay, first I'm going to put on my end user spam hat, because I've got, there's that, but then I'm also running a business where I'm sending emails. So I honestly don't like it even from an end user perspective. I don't like when software is making decisions for me that I haven't asked it to make. So even with what was the other tab you brought up? The promotions, I turned all
Yeah.
that off because it was getting it
Oh,
wrong. It was making bad decisions.
yeah.
So I would rather have had, I'd rather them roll out something that says, hey, when emails come in, you can flag any email from that address as subscription and we will have a separate tab for you. But I think it's a slippery slope when we let software make decisions of what's important, what is or is not. Like, how do we know for sure that this is going to nail it right, that everything in there is going to be a subscription? And let's face it, not all subscriptions are created equal, right? Maybe I decide, wow, I really want to stay on top of, what you're doing, and I want to go to subscribe and I want to get your newsletter. That is ranked very differently than the swimsuit I bought, and now they've sold my email to 10 other things, and all those are in there. So I'm going to I'll be interested to play around with it, but my initial take is not really happy about it, even just as someone who gets a lot of email.
Yeah, we may have to have a part two because I think this is going to become a hot topic. And I think you're right. I do agree with you on the promotion standpoint where things drop into my promotions and I'll look for like a follow up on a return status or a follow up on, my order status or shipping status of something. And I'm like, where is that? Like, did I even order that? I don't even know where this is anymore from an online shopping standpoint. So things do end up in promotions that shouldn't. And then it's kind of labor intensive to say, no, this needs to go to primary. Stop doing this. Right. And things up in primary that could go to promotion. So I do like your take on having software make that decision for us.
What I did to circumvent that with Gmail, I am an Apple user. So I actually use the Apple email client. And then I have a login to all of my email accounts. So I just open up my Apple email and then it has all my inboxes listed. So I can easily just get in instead of actually using the Gmail interface itself. I don't like it and I don't like how it auto stored things. So I've kind of bypassed it by using the Apple email client and accessing my Gmail that way.
Oh my gosh. I was on Apple email as a client forever. Then I did this training not too long ago, probably a year ago now, where they were training to move everything into Gmail.
Yeah.
So I moved everything into Gmail and it's been a huge lesson for me. My husband still uses the Apple client. He's like, oh, it's so easy. I'm like, I know it's so easy. I'm trying to stay on top of technology. I'm trying to be nimble here. I'm trying to not act my age and actually
I'm trying to
advance.
not age out of the cool tech. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm in Gmail, but I don't know. So are you thinking, is it that hard if I want to migrate back to Apple mail client?
Think so at all. No.
It stresses me out to talk about that though, to think about, okay, now I'm going to revert
really
back.
Isn't a migration. You're just saying, okay, now connect this to this account and just see how it comes in. Because it's not going to ruin what you're doing in Gmail.
Yeah. And I do like that the Apple client can hold, if I have 2 or 3 or 4 or 7, like you, email addresses, it can hold stuff from Outlook or iCal, or I'm sorry.
I still have Yahoo email address.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I had an old Yahoo. I don't even know what's going into Yahoo anymore because I have no way of actually checking that because I got rid of my Apple client.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really interesting. So, all right, let's talk about
I think about myself as a business owner.
Yeah.
Right?
Talk to me about that. Yeah.
Like it.
Right.
For the exact reason I just talked about.
Right.
I don't want my emails that someone has thoughtfully gone, wow, I want to get, someone has jumped through hoops and then double opted in to say, I want Megan's newsletter every Sunday. And now that's being given, it's being treated the same as an email coming in from someone who sold your email address to another list or a parent company that has the 15 other companies. So now you're like, why am I getting this when I shopped over here? So I think I think business owners are going to have a big revolt about this for sure.
What do you think is going to be done? What can be done?
I think an interesting thing would be, and I mean, I don't love this either, but I think it'd be an interesting solution is if someone has done a double opt-in, that it does not get treated the same as a single opt-in, at
Yeah,
least
I like
some
that.
level of differentiation that an end user can put in place to say, no, I've said I want this, and I want it in my primary inbox, as opposed to, the Staples deal of the week. Thanks. I don't need that in my primary inbox.
Well, and that's what they were using as the promotional tab. There's been so many marketing agencies that have found workarounds for that promotional tab. And let's be honest, I have a digital marketing agency part of my business, and I do know how you can work around the promotional tab. So to your point, like I said, this just dropped this morning, literally July 10th this morning. And it probably came out yesterday, but when I was hearing about it, was this morning. So maybe there
And I mean,
is
I even
that.
think about, the people on my email list. I'm not in customer support, but I get reports from, the team that manages that. And they have said they've seen an increase of emails coming in going, but I never got blah, blah, blah. And we can see from our email client, yes, it was sent to them, but they're now, you know, I think about the older generation that it's changing so quick. They don't know about the promotions tab. They don't know where the hell all they know is, did it go to quote spam? Well, now spam can mean 10 to other things. I think that it is, at least for us, it's causing a lot more support issues of people who are saying, but I never got it. And we clearly sent it, and I don't know where it landed for them. What
Right.
tab did it go into? And now I look bad as a business owner because they think I haven't delivered on what they've signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. So many things beyond time blocking and management. And I mean, there really is. I mean, and think about like, okay, so now we're spending extra time on figuring out where emails are in the inbox to support whether those that we serve or ourselves, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this sounds. Okay, I'm going to pivot for a second because this is very interesting. What does time blocking actually look like when your days are unpredictable? Because I talk a lot about time management and setting up, like Thursdays can be content and interview days, which I love. But I mean, we know businesses, right? How do you stay consistent? How do you even teach something like that on most days?
So there is the more traditional, and I call it masculine, way of teaching time block. And I say masculine simply because it's what the male productivity experts have been teaching for years. It's what I was taught when I went through
Same.
Franklin Covey 30 years ago,
Yes.
like literally
Yes.
30 years ago. I'm turning 52 tomorrow. So I've been in this space for a long time. So the more masculine approach to time blocking, people think it's just, oh, create the appointment, from 9 to 10:30 on my calendar. I am going to be, writing newsletters and content and whatever. The subtle implication in a lot of the masculine time blocking approaches is that your ultimate goal with time blocking is to create what they call your perfect week. Similar to what you were talking about. Okay, we need to get this consistent map for you. Every Monday from 9 to 10, you do this. Every Monday from 10 to 11, you do this. And that's the secret to success, is getting this rinse and repeat perfect week. That has never, ever worked for me in my life. And for most women, especially if you're in a caregiving role in juggling a business, you're kidding yourselves if you think that you can create a perfect week that you'll be able to rinse and repeat. Because next Monday, the kid's going to be sick. The Monday after that was the only orthodontist appointment that you could get, right? So then what happens is when you're trying to force yourself into the rigid flavor of time blocking, is every single time life happens and you can't honor the time block, it's just this domino effect. You either end up staying up late to do the thing that got taken away, getting up early, or it just doesn't get done, or then the anxiety creeps in, or then you do it later, but then the other thing doesn't get done. And then we get in this vicious cycle of, what am I doing wrong? I'm not time blocking right. And the fact is, it's not that you're not time blocking right, it's that you're trying to use a strategy that it 100% does align with the realities of your life. So I still use and love time blocking, but it looks very different every single week. So instead of every Monday from 9 to 10, I'm doing this, right? I am looking at the start of the week, and I always do mine the weekend before. Okay, what are all the things that are competing for my time for the upcoming week? Narrowing down to what are the ones I'm actually going to do. And now I'm looking at the reality of my week. What are my current commitments? What do I already have going on? I'm also thinking about my energy levels. Like, I'm in menopause. I can't rock a 12-hour day anymore. Like that ship has sailed.
Amen.
I also know what time of day I'm going to be able to really do great work versus not certain work, right? So it may be that I have a week like this week where I actually got way ahead and recorded a whole bunch of content. Next week, I don't have to record any content, right? So I am designing my perfect week just within the confines of the next 7 days. And yes, I am making appointments with myself on my calendar. I'm blocking time and assigning how I'm going to spend it, but it's not under this lens of creating something that then just becomes this machine that I can rinse and repeat when my life tells me day after day after day, you do not have that level of predictability.
That is so good. I feel like it's a hybrid because
Yeah.
had you not talked about blocking certain things out, I would have thought, oof, I feel really like unsteady right now going into waiting. I'm a planner, right? And I think
I'm a
most women
planner.
are, right? Yeah, exactly. And I'm almost out of menopause, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. And happy birthday. This is so
Thank you.
fantastic. Happy birthday. You said your birthday's tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, I love that your birthday's on a Friday too.
I
That's
know,
so
right?
awesome.
And you
Yeah.
know what's on my planner for tomorrow?
0.
Nothing.
Yay. No, that's so good. Even if it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, it should be nothing, right? You know, I say
Absolutely.
should fondly. If you choose to want to work and that brings you joy on your birthday, you could do that
Then
too.
do
But
it. Yeah.
yeah. But you've given a lot of grace in that space because so I literally yesterday, and I was really proud of this, but there's going to be a chance where things could move. I blocked a CEO day starting this month all the way through January of 2026. I actually said I need a CEO day, one day a month at least from now
You should
till
have one every
January.
week. Every
Yeah.
Friday on my calendar is blocked as CEO day. No one can make appointments with me on Fridays.
Okay, so I got to get to that because
Yeah.
I looked at my next few days throughout my calendar and there's always something on it. Like there's a podcast interview or there's, client calls or there's discovery calls or there's XYZ, right? So then are you suggesting that if I would get to the CEO day every Friday mentality, which would be lovely. I do go golfing in the afternoon, so there's a little bit of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But are you suggesting that if I have existing appointments that are set further out, that I just move those to a different day? Or how do you start to get into this nice rhythm that you're talking about?
So if you know, like let's say you want to start a Friday CEO day. Well, I've had mine for a while. About 6 months ago, I started realizing, you know what? I don't like appointments anytime Monday mornings either. Like so I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go on the calendar where people can access me, and I'm going to block from here to eternity off a 3-hour chunk on Monday mornings. I like that time at my desk on Mondays. Then I went and looked at, okay, what conflicts, and I knew, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna be able to institute this in the next couple of weeks, but I want to prevent it from getting worse down the road. So then I looked at, all right, next couple of weeks, I'm going to honor the commitments that I have. But then as I started looking out further, there was those little things, like someone booked an interview for 2 months out or whatever. And I was like, I am contacting them with plenty of heads up for a reschedule that I actually did that. So I reached out to the few things that were lingering on the Mondays, and you can decide, like pick and choose. Is this worth moving? Is it not? But then it dwindled, and finally there was that one Monday with the one thing I didn't move, and now it's just permanently in place. So again, it's similar to the email, right? You don't have to stop the problem before you put the new process in place. You can be like, I'm preventing this. This is the new system I'm working towards. Today's the day I'm protecting my time for these things. And then it might be a cleaning up things a little bit as we eventually get there. But if you wait until people stop taking your time on Monday to have it, you'll never get there, right? So you can at least put the boundary in place, figure out how you want to handle the things that are in conflict of that between now and then. But then you know in the future it's not going to happen anymore.
That is like the ultimate boundary setting, really, right? I mean, protecting yourself and, like you said, your energy and your energy levels. And and what I really like about what you're saying is things change, Megan, like things change. So what worked for us, I can't pull 12-hour days anymore, nor do I want to, right? We go through this and other things become priorities. I mean, you're what I love, and I want to talk about this for a minute. You are actually taking cello lessons. I saw it on your Instagram. So for anybody watching or listening or rewatching this, you've got to check out Megan's Instagram because it's really fun to see that she is playing the cello.
Yeah. Not well. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm actually really proud of where I'm at with how my cello lessons are going. It's something I'd always wanted to do. And so it's been almost about 2.5 years now. I was like, I see I have the capacity for this. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I'm ready to prioritize my time to honor that. I am ready to set boundaries with my family about my practice time, about my lesson time, about all of that. And I am doing it 100% for me with no end game other than I am loving every minute of learning how to play the cello.
And I'm going to tee this up because we talked about it. So we can't wait to see how far you've come in playing the cello on social.
You never will. You know what?
I love that.
Okay, you may or you may not. So, there was this one piece. It's the Bach Suite Concerto No. 1. Everyone knows that. I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music, and I want to be able to play this really well one day. So about 6 months ago, we started working on it. Because, I mean, this is a piece I will probably be working on for 3 years before it ever really sounds good. And so people that knew about this were like, well, when are we, will you play it for us on a coaching call? And I found myself avoiding practicing my cello. Or when I'd sit down to practice it, I wouldn't pull out the Bach. I would go work on other things. And it finally hit me one day. I was talking with my cello teacher about it. I'm like, I'm starting to not enjoy my cello time. And we dug into it. And I was like, because now it was turning into a job with a goal. Or the goal had changed. My original goal was, I just want to be able to play that piece of music and enjoy playing it. Well, now it was now I've got to do it by a certain time and do it in front of other people. And I was allowing societal expectations and other people's thoughts about productivity and worthiness creep in to taking what I started for me as a hobby and now turning it into something bigger, right? And I see women do this all the time. They decide they want to get into crocheting and they make a bunch of hats. Next thing you know, they've got an Etsy shop and they hate crocheting because they've turned their hobby into a business, or photography, or whatever it is. And so I think it's really important that women continue to stay connected with our younger selves of just having a hobby for hobby's sake. And it was fascinating. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's turning 15 soon. And she wanted to learn how to play the violin. And it took me months and interviewing dozens of violin teachers to find the only one that will teach her how to play the violin without having to do recitals and performances.
Oh my
That's the
gosh.
world that we're in. They do not want a student unless they're going to perform and be in the recital and be in the school orchestra. That's what's happened to our world. Nobody we're paying the same money as everybody else, but it took me that long to find a teacher who is thrilled to just teach someone who just wants to have a hobby of playing the violin for the sake of playing the violin. And it took that long to find someone. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. And that says so much, like you said, about the culture that we're in today. So I think it's interesting you're bringing this up about having some flexibility and grace in finding a hobby that brings you joy. What got you to that? How did that come to pass?
Yeah, it's been a long road for me, and it's what really launched me into the work that I do now. So I was in corporate IT for over 20 years, worked as a software executive, got married later, started family later, and I was always someone who had tons of, you think of your 20, I was 20, 30 something, single, I had all sorts of great stuff going on. And my daughter was about 2.5, and I had her at the park on a Friday afternoon. I was pushing her on the swings, and I was still, full corporate mode. And the woman next to me pushing her daughter, or she was a little boy on the swings, was chatting. And at one point just said, "So what do you do for fun?" And it was took the wind out. I felt like a sucker punch because I realized I didn't have an answer. And so that was really for me, which is now about 12, 13 years ago, what started me on this whole journey of really digging into how do we control our calendars, our time? How do we not let everybody and everything else take over our lives was really someone asking me, what do you do for fun? And not having an answer all those years ago. And realizing when I went and looked at my calendar, because I mean, from the outside world looking in, it looked like I, quote, had it all, right? The great job that I really, truly enjoyed my work, a nice house, the neighborhood, the dog, that, all of that. But I was unhappy. I wasn't content. And then I felt guilty for not being content, right? But when I went and looked at my calendar, it's because I was nowhere on it, just Megan. My entire calendar, 7 days a week, was in service to a role I played. It was employee, it was mom, it was wife, it was daughter, it was sister, it was volunteer. Nowhere on my calendar was just space for Megan. And so that was really what launched me into creating this time management framework for women now, because we have got to learn like the actual how. It's so easy for people to go prioritize yourself, right? Anyone can say that. But dear God, it is hard when you have tiny people you are caring for, when you have a boss who's expecting something. And so that's why I wanted to give the actual how, like what are the steps we can start to take? What does a weekly planning process look like? How do you start just getting 15 minutes a day back for yourself? And that's where I had to start all those years ago. It started for me with reading a book every night for 15 minutes before bed that wasn't about parenting, that wasn't about work, that wasn't about self-improvement. Like I love a good CIA juicy novel, or give me the dystopian stuff. And it started with that. Like, what do I love? I was like, when was the last time I read a book just for the sheer joy of reading, right? But that's where I had to start. I was so disconnected from fun, from time for me, from hobbies, from any of it. And now here I am, practicing a cello every day and taking cello lessons and doing a lot more other things that I love.
Which is so lovely to hear, because I think it can ebb and flow. And so
Absolutely.
I have four grown children. The fourth actually just was married last week, basically. So now it's almost like that was the fun and super involved and all of that, right? And it's almost like anything, like you've done a marathon or you've accomplished this, like you talked about. And then it's those couple days, weeks, months after you're thinking, okay, now what am I going to do for fun? Right? Like I think it constantly
It doesn't have
can
to
move.
be forever. I think it should
Right.
be. But what's happening so much, and I'm seeing it from women in my community, and why I want people to start now. Like I am making sure I have time for me and fun and hobbies now, even when I've got a lot going on. I've got a full calendar, right? I'm not in retirement here. But what I'm seeing is women who are now getting into that empty nester stage or retirement where they finally have hit the thing they've been waiting for, right? I'm finally there. Now I have all the time. What they're doing is just going, I don't even know what to do.
Yes.
They're so disconnected from themselves. They haven't cared for themselves or thought about themselves for so long that they're coming to me going, I need time management help because now I have all the time in the world and I don't even know what to do. So I'm like, ladies, we gotta fix this problem, even in the time where it feels the hardest to fix, so that I know when I hit that stage of life, like it's going to be guns a-blazing. Like I'm going to have a million things that I'm going to be doing because I haven't allowed myself to put myself on the back burner for 20, 30 years.
I never thought about individuals coming to you from that perspective, but I hear it all the time, actually.
It's been this last year, just this surge of women that are in empty nester who are coming into the program going, now what?
Well, and I have to share that I am on the other side of that, right? So for all intents and purposes, I retired and, or I left corporate, did my own thing. But if I didn't do what I'm doing right now, to fulfill me at some point, right? So for me, it's giving me purpose. I'm staying on top of technology. I like staying engaged with brilliant women. That's my whole jam, right? I love doing all of that. I can't imagine golfing, shopping, lunching every day like that. Like there has to be
for
more.
Most people, they don't want that either, right?
Right.
I see a lot of women that are now going in and doing like volunteering in places or serving on
Agree.
a board of, things that they're passionate about.
Agree.
But it's almost with a wide open calendar, they don't even know how to plan because they've never
Right.
been taught how to plan the right way because they haven't planned. It's been dictated to them. So now they're learning planning skills for the first time, but under a very different, their life has completely changed as well.
Well, and you're right, the Franklin Covey way, that's all I was taught too.
Yeah.
So I had my big binder and the
Oh,
replacement
I had
things
one
and
for over 20 years.
yeah.
And I one day I started thinking about the math and I'm like, I have to stop. This is going to depress me. But it was at the same time when I was like transforming how I plan and manage my time. So I had the Franklin Covey, every day you turn the page. And it was a Friday and I was sitting in my office at a software company and I would turn the page from Thursday to Friday. And what's the first thing that you do? You rewrite all the stuff that didn't get done on Thursdays onto Fridays, right? And as I was writing it, I was realizing half of what I was writing from Thursday to Friday, I'd written on Monday. So I wrote it on Monday.
Oh
I
my
rewrote
God.
it on Tuesday. I rewrote it on Wednesday. And I was like, I spend about 15 minutes at the start of every workday filling out my Franklin Covey for the day. Most of it is rewriting. So then I started doing the math. I'm like, how many years have I been doing this? Like, and it started calculating like how many months of my life I had spent rewriting the same freaking tasks day after day. I was like, okay, this is clearly like we've got to come up with a better solution. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
a significant amount of my life I spent rewriting the same thing, and I would rewrite it already knowing it wasn't going to get done that day, but I didn't want to
Right.
forget it. So that was its placeholder until I turned it and rewrote it on the following Monday.
So your advice to others is
Okay, well, first of all, if you're using a daily planner, you got to chuck it. A daily planner is just a glorified task list. It
yes.
is going to keep you in what I call just in time living mode, right? Everything's going to feel urgent. It's going to be blinders on. You're just going to be focused on the next 12 hours. You're going to see the list of all this stuff that deep down you know isn't going to get done, but you're pretending like it's going to get done and it's on today's list. So then you go to bed feeling like you failed when there was no
Yes.
way it was going to get done anyway, right? You wake up in time debt because now you've got to carry over everything from yesterday. This is a vicious cycle. And the only way you're going to end it is by learning how to do that's very reactive planning, is to get into proactive planning. And it has to start with planning a week at a time. You've got to, so that's why I'm like, throw away the daily planner and get a planner that is a week at a view. And it needs to have the column, a day as a column with the times next to it. Think of like a Google Calendar weekly view layout. Because people will say, oh, I weekly plan, and they show me their planner, and it's one where each day is just an empty rectangle. I'm like, well, now you're writing 7 task lists out. Like, you
Right.
can't visually see how much time is spoken for in your day if all you're doing is writing things in a blank rectangle. So this is where I always start all the women that I work with is we learn how to do the basics of weekly planning. And it completely changes your relationship with time.
It's so fascinating, and I mean, I love talking to you about all these things. I could talk to you for like another couple hours for sure. But I think I probably would need to be part of your group to do that. But I used to do the weekly, then I went to a daily, and now I've like sort of let go of the daily, but I haven't gone back to the weekly. And I'm going to go back to the weekly, Megan. I'm going to do it because I felt more organized when I had the weekly 1 week at a time versus this daily. And yeah, the task transfer is still a thing. I don't care if it's Franklin Covey or any other thing. It's still a thing.
And everything, like with the way I teach weekly planning, some people, like if I show you my plan, they're like, oh my God, you look so busy. I'm like, dude, half of what you're seeing on my calendar is my protected time of when I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, I need to preserve it so it's colored so that no one else is taking it. But when I talk about everything goes on there, now I'm not talking about like, I don't have on my calendar, wake up and make coffee and go to like, no, that's just happening. Right. But there are subtle things that people are not capturing on their calendar that always make them think that they have more time than they do. And one of the biggest ones is what I call it my unavailable time. And this is when you are awake, you are in motion, you are physically doing things, but they're not the things that would normally live on a task list. So for example, during the school year, I get up very early and there's a lot going on in our house from 6:30 to 8:30 between waking up kid for school and the lunch and the packing of the backpack and where the hell is my water bottle for the 15th time and all of that. That doesn't live on a calendar, right? No one's blocking off that. But then what subtly happens is because you're not acknowledging that you're not going to be able to get stuff on your task list done, then when you go to look at your calendar, your brain is going, we have all the time in the world this week. I can say yes to these things. Hell yeah, we're going to get all that done. So even just visually blocking off, like nothing's happening really before 9 a.m. on the school year because of driving and all of that. And then I'm in a season of life as well where pretty much from 2:30 till dinner, if I try and take any appointments or pretend I'm going to get something done, reality shows me day after day, it never happens. There will be the trip to the craft store for the school project. There will be that we had the wire broke on the braces and we're running to the ortho. Like life has shown me anytime you pretend that you're going to get something, real done during that window, it's not going to happen. So I block that off as unavailable. So now my eyes are seeing, okay, there is 4.5 hours a day gone, not even available to get stuff done. But people aren't visually creating a plan that shows them that. So their brain is constantly going, we can do it. We got this. And you don't got it.
Yeah. Really, really good information. And yeah, you're right. And it goes back to that where we think we can get more done in a shorter amount of time. And we can actually, and we think we get less done in a longer amount of time, right? In a year, we accomplish more. And in a shorter amount of time, we never get everything done that we think we can, right? So it's very interesting. So I'm guessing, I know you have a book, right? And I know you've got tools and resources.
It's not out yet. So we have a ways to go. So we actually just got the book deal, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm thrilled. So the book will be in the works and I will be letting you know when the time comes for that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And how do we stay in touch with you? Where can we find you? Where can we learn about more of these wonderful
I'd say
hacks?
a great place if you are, kind of curious to learn more about what this time management system looks like. What does realistic weekly planning look like? How do I teach this? I think one of the best resources I send people is I have a free app in the App Store. It's in Apple and it's in Google Play. It's just called the Pink Bee, all one word. You can go download it, create your account. And in there, as soon as you create your account, just your email password, there's 2 mini courses that are just in there for free. So it'll introduce you to the 4 levels of planning that I teach. You'll also get some great tools and strategies all in there. And I always think that that's a great place to go because there's short videos. It's easy to do. It's right there on your phone. And it'll really kind of get your head thinking about time and time management a little bit different.
Well, that is incredibly generous of you. And I love that it's an app because I can take it. I don't go down course purgatory when I'm trying to do these things. It's only available, of course, on the desktop. So now I can take it on the go. So that is fabulous. I can treat it like a podcast or a YouTube Live then.
You really can. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we also have a workshop coming up for free, actually July 24th, and we're going to talk a little bit about time leaks, but it's more from a delegation standpoint. How many times are you touching your keyboard and how can you be more effective with delegating? So I'm sure you touch on that as well.
Well, and delegating is, one of the things I always love the distinction on with delegating that took me a while to learn, and particularly for women, is this idea of delegation versus transferring of ownership. Because a lot of women, and believe me, I fall guilty of this, will be like, well, I delegated it, meaning you've now asked someone else to do it. But if you still have a to-do item to check in, is it done? And you're following up and you're like, guess what? You haven't delegated it. Like true transferring of ownership, meaning you're out. And for women, it's really hard.
It's really hard. Matter of fact, it's funny you say that. I had team calls on Monday, and I'm writing down, okay, I asked about this, and we're doing this, and of course, it's staying on my list until I know it's closed. But I actually should just be like, we talked about it. I'm just going to assume that you're handling it, and it'll get work done and done. So I too am getting better at that.
And it's I always start with like, okay, pick the things that you're not like fully married to the outcome, and practice with those, right?
Good
like
call.
the laundry, like, right? I mean, just as a household, like find something that, because if you start with something where you're really invested emotionally in the exact outcome of it, you're going to have a really hard time transferring ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. My perfectionism unfortunately steps in.
I
Or
mean, our control freak tendencies, our perfectionism, all of it. I'm hypothetically, that's not me, but hypothetically,
it's okay.
for sure.
So good. Well, thank you, Megan, so
My
much
pleasure.
for doing this with me. It's always good to get to know you a little bit better as well. And I know I enjoy our conversations inside of Voxer, which is really fun. So grateful to Beth for connecting us, and
Yes.
look forward to continue the conversation. Can't wait to see the book or read the book as well.
Thank you.
Have an excellent day.
You too.
Thanks.